All right, let's start with question 33. Aurelio is purchasing carpet tiles to cover an area of his living room floor that is 8 1/3 feet wide by 10 feet long. Each carpet tile is a square 20 inches wide by 20 inches long. What is the minimum number of carpet tiles that Aurelio must purchase to cover this area of his living room floor? So we've got our living room. Try that again. We've got our living room floor here. Is 10 feet long by 8 1/3 feet wide. But really the first problem I see is we've got feet, we're measuring the living room, and we've got the tile, the carpet tile we're putting in the living room is in inches. So let's first convert all of this to inches. So to convert 10 to inches, we're just going to multiply that by 12, and same thing for 8 1/3. 10 times 12 is 120. 8 times 12 is 96, but then we got to multiply 12 times 1/3 as well. 12 times 1/3 is 4. So 96 plus 4 is 100. So this is a 100 by 120 inch living room. The area is just length times width, so that's going to be 12,000 square inches. Well, the area of one carpet tile, these carpet tiles are 20 by 20, so their area is 400. So to figure out how many of these little carpet tiles we need to cover 12,000 square inches, we're just going to divide 12,000 by the area of the tiles. That gives us 30. All right, 34. This one really easy if you know the equation of a circle formula. So I'm going to write that down. I would encourage you to commit this one to memory because it shows up a lot. Where H and K, this represents the center of the circle, and then R is obviously the radius. So they tell us the center is 8, 5. And they're both positive, so it's just x minus 8 squared plus y minus 5 squared. And then the radius is 9, so 9 squared equals 81. Hopefully that is an answer choice. That is F. Be careful, they really want you to choose G, but in the formula you've got to square the radius. All right, many humans carry the gene YQ77. The YQ test determines with 100% accuracy whether a human carries YQ77. If a YQ test result is positive, the human carries that gene. If a YQ test is negative, the human does not carry YQ77. Sam designed a less expensive test called the SAM77 test. It does produce some incorrect results. To determine the accuracy of the SAM77 test, both tests were administered to 1,000 volunteers. The results from the administration are summarized in the table below. So it's important to know the YQ test, 100% accurate. SAM77 test, we're not sure the exact accuracy, but it's not perfect. Okay, first, 35. It costs $2,500 to administer each YQ test and $50 to administer each SAM77 test. What was the total cost to administer both tests to all volunteers? It should be pretty simple. It says both tests were administered to 1,000 volunteers. So basically, we're taking 2,500 and adding 50. And then we're going to multiply that number by 1,000. But we can pretty quickly see. Be careful, D is tricky, but it should be E. What percentage of the volunteers actually carry YQ77? So to do this, remember, the SAM77 test, we want to kind of ignore the results here because it's going to be incorrect some of the time. We want to focus on the YQ test here. So we want to, what percent of volunteers actually carry it? So we're looking at in the positive YQ test column. 590 plus 25 tested positive for that YQ test. So 590 plus 25 is 615. So 615 actually carry YQ 77, and 1,000 participants or volunteers were administered the test. So the answer is 615 divided by 1,000, 61.5%. For how many volunteers did the SAM-77 test give an incorrect result? So since the YQ test is always right, we want to figure out how many different tests these differed in. So let's first look in this first row for positive SAM-77 tests. So this 590 represents 590 tested positive for the YQ test. Those 590 also tested positive for the SAM-77 test. So those 590 all tested correctly for the SAM-77 test. This 10, though, is where they differ, because these 10 represents 10 that tested positive for the SAM-77 test, but they tested negative for the YQ test. So 10 so far. Then we look in the second row, negative SAM-77 test. We've got 25 more. They tested negative for SAM-77, but tested positive for the YQ test. So 25 plus 10 gives us 35 volunteers. The SAM-77 test did not give a correct result. Finally, one of the volunteers whose SAM-77 test result was positive will be chosen at random. To the nearest 0.001, what is the probability the chosen volunteer does not possess YQ77? All right, so I'm going to delete my past work. So one of the volunteers whose SAM-77 test result was positive. So that means we're focused on this row right here. And obviously right off the bat, I see that's 600 participants. We're talking about probability, so 600 is our denominator. So there's 0.0001. What is the probability the chosen volunteer does not possess YQ77? Well, there's 10 that fall underneath the negative YQ test, and those 10 will be accurate because the YQ test always works. So 10 out of 600, or reduce that to 1 out of 60. Either way, put that in a calculator, and you should get a number that rounds to 0.017.